Yes, I will.
Mr Chairman, it can be very difficult in circumstances such as happened in Christchurch with the earthquake sequence to actually identify where boundaries are. My own property on the Port Hills, I'm sure that one of the boundary pegs has moved. I'm sure that the others didn't. So perhaps my section has got slightly bigger than it used to be. I don't really know. But neither the neighbours nor I have any great interest in spending money on redefining where the boundaries are. However, the point is this, that there are anomalies which happen. There needs to be a way to deal with those. This bill provides a very sensible way of doing that. It doesn't alter the fundamental principles of surveying. It provides a degree of flexibility around the general rules, and I welcome that. I welcome the approach to provide for practical solutions that will actually work in the circumstances. And that's essentially what this bill does. So for that reason, New Zealand First has no difficulty at all in supporting it. It's very sensible. Now, Mr Speaker, there are a number of ways in which I and others in Christchurch have noticed really some quite strange and but important things happen. And I remember being told by a friend of mine who, during the 2011 earthquake, was driving down Manchester Street and watched the street ripple like a carpet being shaken in front of him, and couldn't believe what he was seeing. And then I've looked down that same section of street a number of times, and it seems to me that there has been a new bulge occur in about the middle of the section of the street that goes through central Christchurch, because I used to be able to see all the way from Armagh Street all the way down to Morehouse Avenue and see a straight level piece of road. But I swear that is no longer the case, and there's this sort of a bulge in the middle. So that's one of the sorts of things that happens during these earthquakes. And then others have talked about lateral spread. We all know people whose sections have moved and expanded, especially around the rivers and areas like that. The aquifers have altered. People in Woolston, not far from where I live, have had new springs pop up on their sections, some of them actually under existing houses, and water appears out of nowhere and then washes down the gutters. Another issue has, of course, been land subsidence, and we've seen some of that in what is now called the Flockton Basin. It was never called that. It was just a low-lying level of land in the Flockton Street area. And I remember while I was on the City Council providing for some improved drainage for that area, but we never called it the Flockton Basin. It's now called that because there is a depression there, and much more drainage is necessary as a result. So those are just some examples of the magnitude of things that change during an earthquake. And that's why legislation like this, with a practical approach, is needed to be able to deal with those sorts of things. I just wanted to say one other thing, Mr Chairman, and that's this, that the definition of earthquake was dealt with by the Select Committee, and I understand they're now allowing 6 years for the whole earthquake sequence, so that when we talk about an earthquake, it's really not just a single event. We noticed the 2011 one because it was so huge. But actually, a few minutes later, there was another very big earthquake, which by itself would have been significant. And then there were a number of other shocks, and as time went on, there were some very significant events too. My hot water system must have sprung leaks about 3 or 4 times during that sequence. Ultimately, I just had to get it replaced. It couldn't put up with it anymore, and neither could I. So I actually agree that it's very important that we have a practical definition of what an earthquake is, and it is a sequence, and for practical reasons you need an end point for that. 6 years, I think, is appropriate. That'll mean, I guess, sometime in 2017 the sequence will be deemed to have come to an end, and that anything that happens after that will have to be regarded as a new event. It's a good practical approach. I think the whole bill is a good practical piece of legislation, which we have no difficulty whatsoever in continuing to support.
Members, I propose to put the Minister's amendment and then to put individually and then to put the other amendments as one question. It appears that there's might be the calm before the storm, but there's a bit of unanimity in the House on this issue. So the question is that the Minister's amendment set out on SOP number 192 be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary opinion will say no. The ayes have it. The question now is that Part 1 as amended, Part 2 as amended stand part, that Schedule 1 stand part, and that Clauses 1 and 2 stand part. The question is that that question is agreed to. Those with that opinion will say aye. Contrary opinion will say no. The ayes have it. I will report this bill with amendment presently. Members, we turn now to the Shop Trading Hours Amendment Bill. The question